start by starting. You know, been doing this, whatever this is, in the healing spiritual path for many years, but sitting down to record this and these would-be videos feels like starting from zero. Many changes in my life feel like starting from zero in a way. And of course, everything that's been experienced and learned or let go of informs where I am right now. But it does feel strange. I've been in many situations where I found myself as the one holding the space for many people over many years and doing it quite well and finding a deep sense of meaning and purpose in it, along with gratitude and love and service and all of these higher spiritual and human ideals that make the work worth doing, but just life in general worth living. And now I'd like to share that in this format. And I'm asking myself, what do I even say? Where do I even start, Holding space in retreats for people, most of the time it's responsive, so there are things that happen that people bring up that we respond to. But just here with myself, it's like all of the decision of where to go is apparently coming from me. Of course, there's things going on in my life that I can respond to, so but I suppose the thing I wanted to maybe touch on today was doubt, um, which seems appropriate. And even talking about doubt as a topic, it's like, what can I say about doubt when, to be honest with you, I'm kind of consumed by it. And what that takes me to is, I think, the heart of my personal philosophy or approach to this kind of work. And it's that, isn't it better to be authentic? You know, you can watch or listen to things on YouTube, on the internet more generally, from different spiritual teachers. Someone like Eckhart Tolle or Sadhguru or Osho or whoever. And in that video, in that workshop, in that position that they're in, they are undoubtedly speaking from something very profound. And I guess, I assume it seems to be the case that, someone like Eckhart Tolle, for example, he's going to be like that in all of his life. It really does look like and feel like this shift is something total in his life. Now, people have said to me over the years that when I hold a space, it's beautiful. It's deeply enriching for them. And of course, that's like a tremendous thing to hear. Um, but when I'm elsewhere in my life, I'm not always like that, you know, which is obvious to me. Maybe it's not obvious to the people in the space seeing me in that position, you know. So anyway, the point is that certainly there are going to be people in the world, maybe not that many, maybe more than we think, but not everyone, who have had something so profound, so miraculous, so transformative happen to them. Let's just call them enlightened. You know, let's just call them Buddhas, let's just call them, you know, whatever. Let's just call them whole. Yeah. But for most of us, it's not like that. For the vast majority of us, we exist in a range of how frequently we're connected, how frequently are we whole in our lives. For some of us, it's very infrequent. Maybe we've never even had an experience yet where we've been fully whole or fully present, you know, or completely connected with ourselves. For others, it might be something we've experienced a few times, but not so regularly. For others, maybe it does happen quite often. Uh, let's say when it's needed, and if you put yourself in a position where it's needed a lot, like you are a facilitator, you do retreats, you're a therapist, then yeah, it happens quite often. But then when the session ends, when the retreat ends, suddenly, where is that, you know? And so the doubt, at least in this moment, is how should anyone present themselves, you know? Because on the one hand, if you put a video camera and a microphone in any of the hundreds of retreats I've done, and you recorded things I'd said and done, you could put that out there and people would see something hopefully quite inspiring. Put a camera and a microphone in my more, you know, solitary moments, probably not so much. And you know what we choose to share with the world is important. So I don't want to create this or a series of videos where it's documenting my most neurotic moments or, you know, outlining this descent into some deeply contracted parts of me. But at the same time, it almost feels disingenuous to come here and record myself talking about something that, yeah, maybe I have a lot of experience in, but is it something real in my life right now? Maybe. Maybe I'm just judging myself for where I think I should be. So what I've settled on in the end is just starting. Trying not to think about it too much. And being authentic. I don't doubt myself that in some moments, maybe even in some topics in their entirety, that what I have to say, and not just say, but share, that comes from me, through me, whatever you want to think of it as, can be deeply meaningful, enriching, important. But maybe not sometimes. Maybe sometimes I'm just the way that I am in this moment. And look, it's not like, you know, all of these people I've met over the years are gonna see this and see this other side of me, or, you know, it's not like I have a public persona where everyone knows me to be one certain way, and now this is like a behind the scenes kind of thing. It's more like in whatever form, whatever ways that I'm sharing myself with the world from now until I don't anymore because I'm not here. I want to choose to make it authentic, sincere, and starting there with that feels right. And the proof is in what follows, you know, because I remember one time I said to someone that, okay, we can have a big speech about how stepping up to the stage, stepping up to the microphone is an ordeal, and all of the ways in which we were going to do it or not do it or struggled with it. And now we're here. Okay. And maybe that in and of itself is the thing that we say while we're on the stage with the microphone, figuratively or literally. But now that you're there, what do you actually want to say? It's a good question to ask myself right now. I suppose what I want to say is that even with many years in this process, I don't know how it works. There's a fundamental question that I've yet to really answer. Maybe there is no answer. But basically goes something like this. Why do I feel stuck? Why have I not been able to overcome this recurring theme in my life? Why have I not yet been able to escape the gravity of being pulled back in to this same place, literally and internally? And is stepping out of that, getting out of that, is it something that I am not doing that I ought to do? Something that I am doing that I need to stop doing? Something that I haven't even considered yet? Something more about grace or surrender that happens inside, that's on a internal clock that was set by forces beyond me or beyond my, human existence. Look, I'm sure people are going to have a million and one responses, or would have a million and one responses to these kinds of questions. I think that tells you more about the person than the truth of the situation. And I've thought it before, and I've said it before, look, if I met a modern day Buddha, like an enlightened being was traveling through England and, you know, having disciples, I'm pretty sure I'd just drop everything and go with them because that's one person, one perspective that you could just completely and absolutely trust. If Buddha says to you, just surrender, or Buddha says to you, you need to find within yourself the determination to step through this situation in your life. Not that those two things are mutually exclusive. Then you're like, yes, master, like, obviously that's what I'll do. Which brings us back to start by starting. I don't have the answers. And right now, at least, I don't have a Buddha. So I have this sense, this intuition, this wish to do this, but not really knowing what it is I'm going to talk about. And this doesn't just mean this video, this means this project, really. And some days I feel like I'm bringing something super rich and meaningful. Maybe it's received that way, maybe not. Other days I might feel like I'm just being authentic in the fact that I don't know what I'm saying. And maybe that's really meaningful and reaches people. Or maybe it's not, and it's a waste of time. But to have that consistency and commitment, not to who sees it, how it looks, but to just do it. And if people receive something from it along the way, then all the better. But to not try and sit down here as the best version of myself who I have been before, because that's who people need me to be, which might be true, but that I want me to be that version. But to trust myself, of course, the antithesis of doubt, to trust that on some level, and maybe this is the scariest thing, that best version of me is going to come out no matter what I think about myself. So just start by starting.